I got a good friend here today, Noah Thompson from Echo's Handyman. It's a pleasure. It's really a
Yes.
pleasure to meet you again after a long time.
It's been
I've
a
heard you've been
while.
doing a lot of things. Yeah, man. Yo, we
Yeah.
go back. We
Way
go
back.
back just from playing football,
Hmm.
up on the turf to now, in our own fields of business.
Yep.
And
Life
that's
has changed
great
a
to
lot.
see. All right. Well, I mean, we can just cut to it and we can really talk. If you want to speak a little bit more about your handyman job, because I see the logo, I see the fresh polo,
Yeah,
I
right
see the
there.
fresh polo.
Just came in.
Um, let's first talk about just the idea of handyman. Because it doesn't really have boundaries. What are some stuff that you do specifically, and maybe some that you've been doing for a long time, with your business.
Well, I do. A handyman is jack of all trades, so there's not really anything I can't do outside of what they call MEPs, which is, anything that requires a license, such as electrician, plumber, any kind of mechanical trade. So I stay away from those as long as it's like for electrical, for example, like an outlet. I'll work on that. But anything beyond that in a wall, I wouldn't do. But for the most part, as a handyman, you're a jack of all trades. You need to do everything. You need to, if you don't know how to do it, you better start studying and learning, practice at your own house, or figure it out one way or another. That's how I
Okay.
learned how to do drywalls. I have friends with holes in the walls. My parents had holes in their walls. Start patching, get practicing, watch YouTube videos, learn from the best and just keep practicing.
That's a good concept to really think about. If you can't find someone to do it, you gotta do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You mind just talking a little bit more about, like, what was it, MAPs or
MEPs, so mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So
okay.
now, as a handyman, it depends on state to state too. But I believe in as far as Texas, you're allowed to do like an outlet or a plug. Plumbing, you can do basic minor plumbing fixtures. Mechanical, don't really worry about that too much. That's beyond what we really do as a handyman. But yeah, anything beyond like minor plumbing, minor electrical, you want to stay away from. That's requires license, and it can get dangerous or even deadly. If you want to mess with a breaker panel, you want to have a license and you want to be insured for that.
Okay. Yeah, I know that, some people wouldn't like their house getting burnt up, but
Hmm.
that's right now in the day to day. Let's kind of begin on where the journey start. How did you just go from, last time I saw you, playing on the football fields to now running your own business and we sitting, over FaceTime together?
Oh man, that's a that's a wide stretch of time. Well, when I was in high school, I was working at McDonald's, and then from a manager at McDonald's, I went to Discount Tire. I was there for a while. Then I went into construction, and that's where my handyman journey started getting its foundation. And I worked in construction, and I was having a great time at first, and then I was like, man, I need to make more money. Project management is I like it, but I was watching YouTube videos where it's like YouTube Shorts. I believe it's some handyman on YouTube. It's just like, hey, if you know how to do this and that, you can make $300 a day, $500 a day if you really know what you're doing. You know, but it's gonna take some time. And it started getting into my mind, and I was like, I know how to do all this stuff. I have the construction mind. I've learned so much throughout the years. Let me give it a shot. My my story of leaving is actually kind of crazy. Most people would say, "Man, you're crazy for doing that." Because what happened was I was working for the construction company. My girlfriend at the time got pregnant, and
Mhm.
that's when it kind of all hit me. I was like, "Oh man, this is about to get real. I need to step up my game, and I need to get out there and do something, or I'm gonna be stuck working a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life." And I don't want to do that. I always had that mindset, even from coming from Discount Tire. So I took the plunge and I just jumped. I was like, I know I'm gonna fall face flat, and it's gonna be hard, but I got 9 months to figure it out. I had a little bit of money saved up so I could, make do for that time. And I had a friend come in that he had a mobile mechanic business. So he was like, you know what? I took a day off from construction. I went and worked with him for a day or two, and he was showing me like, hey, look, I know you. you worked on cars a little bit here and there, and you know your way around a car. And I know you're trying to start your own business. Come come work with me. Quit that job. Come work with me. We can figure out a way to do things that you know how to do on cars while you're trying to get your handyman business going. And so that's what I did. So that way I had some kind of source of income while I was just jumping out into the abyss. And it worked good for maybe, I would say, a month. And the guy kind of had his own issues. And, you know, I don't want to say his name or anything, going too detailed about him, but
Mm-hmm.
he had issues with, you know, drugs, and his stuff wasn't working out basically. And that kind of just left me in the dark. I didn't have that source of income. And my handyman business, I'm still developing it. I already got it on Google listings, and I would get like maybe 2 calls a month at that point. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, oh man, am I gonna have to go back to a 9 to 5? Am I gonna have to go figure out another way to make money while I'm trying to get this going? And luckily, I was playing around with the Google's weird, but when you do a Google listing, it's just they like to. There's like little tweaks you do, and then your listing goes crazy, and then I don't know. You just have to play with this weird, and there's no support system for it. It's all done through like AI or something. So if you mess up something and you don't know how to figure it out, you have to Google it, and then there's not a whole lot of Google videos about it. So if you
Mm-hmm.
mess that up, you know, you just have to stick to it, restart, figure something out. And it's tough, but I eventually figured it out. It went from, you know, 2 calls a month to, you know, 2 or 3 calls a week to, you know, now I get now I've gotten quite a few landlords under my belt, and I work for them. I definitely work with a bunch of homeowners, uh, but now it's kind of picked up, and I can just kind of book out my week. The last few weeks, I've been booked out for like 2 to 3 weeks out, and some of those are larger projects that take like multiple days or a whole week even. So lately, it's been pretty busy, I would say.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. It definitely sounds like a journey, and I know there's deeper stuff that goes into it, with the interworkings. But let's dive deep on when you decided when life kind of took your way on saying, okay, this initial mobile mechanic integration into handyman wasn't working. Now, and correct me if I get this any type of mixed up, but you made the commitment and cancel your 9 to 5 to say, okay, I'm leaning into what I'm doing. And the first attempt didn't really work because just circumstances with life and partnership. Um, at that time, were you thinking about equity maybe in the business that guy was running, or was it still just kind of I'm learning everything and I'm still in my mind a handyman got to be the business and this I'm just kind of making some dollars?
Yeah, I mean, are you asking me basically if I wanted to go to being a mobile mechanic or a handyman, kind of in between there?
This question is more geared toward business structure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you take the leap. Hey, I'm not no employee no more, I'm gonna be an owner.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm talking with this guy. Am I just, a part-time employee making my own ownership, or am I thinking, hey, I might commit with this, have one business and then start another business?
Yeah, no, honestly, at one point, I felt like that. I felt like I'm not really, basically when I first kind of took that jump with him, I was under the belief that, he was going to throw me jobs and just go get them done and take care of it. But then it became like, oh, I want you working 6 days out of the week and doing this and doing that. And, if I tell you to do something, go do it. I was like, man, this is not what we discussed. I need my flexibility. I got my jobs coming in. You know, I can't work 6 days for you and work for myself for 6 days.
Hmm.
I need some flexibility, and then sometimes I had to remind him, and I don't know. That guy was that guy was something. You know, it
You
it was
know,
a crazy experience.
okay, and let's continue from that experience when the ties was severed.
Mhm.
Did that actually give you an idea of the structure that you would like to work with now? Because are you
Yes.
Do you
Yeah,
have
that did give me
complete
a.
control?
He did set the foundation for me because he brought me into he did all his stuff off Google. He got Google listings, and I that took that added that to my business structure. He getting Google reviews, getting the way you would talk to a customer, and even the way he did his estimates. Obviously, handyman and mechanic is a different thing, but it's similar in a way as far as if you need to. I don't know, I can't really explain it, but the way he would do estimates, I kind of interpreted that into mine a little bit, but also took what I gained from working in construction and doing estimates and put that kind of mixed it all together, and that's what I came up with. And so far, it's been pretty successful. But everything, I'm grateful for everything I learned from not only the construction business, but also from the mobile mechanic, because I feel like if it wasn't for him telling me to take that leap, I wouldn't have done it. Not so quickly. Because as soon as I worked with him, I put my 2 weeks in. 2 weeks later, I was, you know, with him working on cars, and it was a bad experience, but I'm grateful for it. And honestly, if you asked me if I would do it again, I probably would.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting in my mind because I know a lot of people would be more hesitant on the secure 9 to 5, and then it's like, okay, I want to make my own business, but I'm cautious. I'm scared, to just cut to the point.
Mhm.
And that fear had to be there as well, because you had a baby
Oh,
on the way, you had to provide, but you trusted in yourself enough to really make that decision.
absolutely. It's hard. I know it's hard. It's not just hard. It's scary. You're thinking about it. You're like, man, my income isn't guaranteed. I have to go. I have to go get it. That's simple. I have to go get it. I have to. I have to go find the lead. I have to talk to this customer. I have to make sure the customer's happy. I got to make sure my estimate is fair, but I also got to make sure I make money because I need to survive. You know, it's scary for sure, 100%.
I want to ask this question. In starting your business and thinking back on it now to those earlier days, what was some of the biggest challenges that you faced? And, for example, was it getting the first few clients or managing your time, or was it just something entirely different?
Getting clients was definitely a challenge. But also figuring out how much money you want to make, because there's people all day that'll take you for as cheap as you can be, and that's what I had to figure out at first. Is like, oh, sure, I can go do a quick little job for $50, but you're not calculating. I'm not calculating my drive time, my time to kind of figure out the estimate and do this and do that, and everything adds up to where, yeah, it's a simple little job, 20, $50, whatever. You're not making any money. It's just you have to be you either have to pass on the small jobs, or you have to set your minimums. My minimums are usually around 100, 125. That's basically like a trip charge. That's what I tell people, and I get a bunch of calls like, hey, I just need you to just do this. Well, I have a minimum of 100, 125. Oh, I can't do that. That's way too much. Well, sorry, you live 30 minutes away. That's an hour drive time there and back, and I can't do it. So good luck to finding somebody else. I'm sure there's somebody out there that will do it for the cheap, but and then my customers that understand that and can't afford that end up being repeat customers, and then it just stacks and stacks and stacks. That's usually how it goes.
I'd like to highlight that. I believe that's business maturity because I have a little bit of experience doing residential electrician. I never pursued any higher licensing, but even then it was a small company, 10 and below. And just for down the street, it's still, a 125 trip charge.
Hmm.
And it does depend on how many men are there, but it's setting the bar, even if it was a bulb replacement,
Hmm.
because you got to have that respect not only for the business, but then also for the craftsmanship that you have.
Yeah,
So
you
it's
got to
knowing
pay.
your worth.
Yeah, you got to pay for the guy to go out there. The company has its own overheads. The company needs to make profit. You got all that adding up. So there has to be a minimum. If you're running a business, you have to have a minimum. The people that go out there and do it for 20, $50, they call them a chuck in a truck or whatever. Those guys, those are the ones that will go and do something for a quick $20 or whatever. If you want to be a professional business, you got to set your minimums and set your standards, and also weed out the bad customers. You always have bad customers that are just they're too cheap. They want you to come do something for cheap, and then they're like, "Oh, while you're here, can you do this?" And you're like, "I can, but it's going to cost you."
Hmm.
This was the original. This was originally what we talked about, but if you want me to do this and that, it's just how it is. It'll weed out those customers for sure.
You're giving us a lot of lessons right now. Where did someone guide you along this way, or was it a lot of trial and error in your case?
Um, there was a lot of trial and error. There's YouTube videos, um, and also I guess a little bit of experience in construction. You kind of see how the way people work, and if you watch like mentors, they explain. I don't have any like in-person mentors. I mainly watch people on YouTube, like business mentors, and the way they look at business and how they how they set their company foundations and whatnot. That's pretty much yeah. Uh that's where I got all my foundation set from. My bad.
Yeah.
I drew a blank there. I'm getting distracted.
No, it's
But
all good. I was gonna say, it kind of even steps away from, what we might have read in books or what we might have been told, before by, our elders on you got to find this one person and then you got to be their apprentice. Nowadays, people are busy. You see, the people are busy or people are, really working themselves. So
mhm,
creating your own mentor, let that either be, from a compilation of people that you admire or just people that are being successful. I think
mhm,
that's a key thing that it's a myth that got to get broken. That one person isn't going to solve all your issues, because nothing is really unique.
mhm. Yeah.
Let's
You need to learn from a lot of people. Yeah. Everybody has something to teach you, and it's stupid to think that you know it all because you don't. Nobody will, especially in this industry. It changes every day.
Okay. Talking about something that happens every day, let's talk about the machine of your business. How does your typical day-to-day operations work now than how you've been when you started?
Uh, Operations as far as like a system in place.
Yeah, so let's maybe just get a little background on it. Are you still just a one-man team at this moment? Do you have partners or
Uh,
people that you work with?
I am pretty much a one man army right now. I have worked with like setting contracts and having people help me. I've had day helpers because sometimes like a siding job I would do, those siding panels are 80 pounds and I gotta lift those up 2 stories. So I need to hire somebody just to come help me for a day just to put them up because I can't carry them
Mhm.
up a ladder by myself. But for the most part, I work on my own. If I need help, I'll hire it. Or if I'm just too busy and I don't want to do this job, but I know I can. They call it subcontracting. You can subcontract that out. I've done that. I haven't done it a whole lot, but I've done it a few times, handful of times. But
Okay.
for the most part, it's all me.
Okay. So now that you're starting to become more seasoned and just getting into a groove, how would your typical day start from the day-to-day operations?
Uh, so usually I already have a week booked out. So say the week prior, I would get the calls. Set up a day to go estimate, or just go look at the job and figure out what they're saying is true, what they need done, and it could be a whole different job scope and be a different kind of job than what they initially thought. But anyways, yeah, I would set up a time to go meet with the homeowner or customer, whoever, and we would walk the job, figure out what their issues are, what they want fixed. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's complicated, and then I would set up an estimate, and then I have a system called Jobber. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
I'm not
That's
too
where I do
familiar.
yeah, I do customer all my customer contact. I basically input all the information, address, email, number, name, all that. And I can do my estimates, I can send out my jobs and tell them, hey, look, Echo's Handyman Services is arriving this day at this time. Are you good with that? Hit confirm. And that's how it pretty much book out all my weeks. And then it's every day changes. There's no one day fits all. It's just for a whole week I could be doing one project, and then the next week I'm doing 3 or 4 smaller projects throughout the week. Uh, Like last week, I was pressure washing on Monday. For this was actually a landlord. I was working on his personal house. I was pressure washing his fence because he needs it stained. And I cleared out his patio to pressure washed off the patio. I let that dry for a day, and then the next day I was working for another lady. She needed some chairs put together, and some weather stripping put in, and then the following day I went back and sealed the concrete, the patio concrete that I just pressure washed, and then now I'm still waiting. We had a few rainstorms, so I actually have to go back probably tomorrow to do the standing on the fence. So, weather plays a big part too as far as day to day, you know, especially if you're working outside. But for the most
Okay.
part, it's every week is different.
Hmm. That's pretty good. Um, just to be, I guess, just to have a clearer picture, how long have you been doing just this one man operation for Echo's handyman service?
It's been about a year and a half or so, maybe a little longer. When did I jump? What it is? I think it's about a year and a half, maybe a little over, somewhere around there. Not too long, honestly. The first year was slow and hard, but now it's
Hmm.
picking up. I don't really. I know some people see me as successful. I'm still thinking. I think I still. I got a long ways to go before I consider myself successful. I'm doing good enough to survive and pay my bills, but I still got a ways to go. My plan is to have people working for me at some point. As far as I'm thinking more towards leaning towards employee. Having handymans and vans running
Hmm.
around fixing things. But that's gonna take some time. It's further down the road.
Yeah, you can't really rush progress. It definitely sounds from all your experiences that you've been building a nice foundation. And with this foundation, even when you talked about doing estimates, you took your experience from construction, and then you saw how this friend of yours did estimates for a mobile mechanic, and you kind of blended the two to be in a unique way.
Hmm.
You know, amongst not only your estimates and being personal with your clientele, what are some other things that you see that sets Echo's handyman services apart from your typical handyman
Uh,
or
I
the
would say
chuck in the
quality.
truck?
I would say quality.
Okay.
I Coming from construction, you would see what would be considered good quality and what would be considered bad quality. And when I go, I've been on customers' houses where they've had other handyman do work, and you're like, wow, I can set the bar way higher. I can blow this customer's mind because that looks like shit. Just to put it plainly, it looks like shit. And they're
Hmm.
happy with that. Let me blow their socks off. And that's pretty much I want for me is great customer service, quality work. I'm not too outrageously priced because I'm not like a general contracting company that hires the contractor and it puts their overhead and profit on top of that. So the price is tremendous compared to what I would charge. My price would be what the contractor's price would be. So it's not going to be outrageously expensive compared to going to a general contracting company or any kind of construction company where they don't have a in-house that does any kind of work. It's all subcontracted.
Okay. You definitely have your years of experience where you can tell if it's good work or bad work, or just the craftsmanship and the care. But do you mind just giving the audience maybe three examples of stuff to look for when it's like, man, this ain't really the best I paid for, you know? And it could
Uh,
be, and you can pick like one specific topic, especially since you touch an array of things.
mhm.
Maybe we can say windows, paint, and you think siding.
Yeah, let's do. Here's an example. Windows. If you hire somebody to do your windows, and here's actually before we even get to that, let's start with the estimating process. When they
Okay.
send you a price for the estimate, is it is it explain what they're gonna do in detail? Is it gonna say, hey, look, is it just say remove and replace window and seal it, or does it say remove window, inspect framing for any kind of rot, water damage, anything? Does it have details about the waterproofing around the window, window tape flashing, everything? Like, is it broken down like that, or is it just a remove and replace? Here's the price. That's a big red flag right there. I'm not saying that all people that do that are not good at what they do. They might just be bad estimate writers and just here's the price, let me do the work, and they do a good job. But that can possibly be a red flag from the jump. Um, and yeah, like I was saying, when you're doing a window, you there's some people that just pull a window out and throw a new window in, and they
Hmm.
don't think about the putting the window tape flashing all the way around. That's an extra layer of water protection to your framing. No, increase longevity of your window frame and your house altogether. It's just little things, It's stuff a homeowner wouldn't know, but that's something you have to consider. I would say if you're really worried about quality, you would want to do your own research before you hire somebody. That way, when you do hire somebody and they kind of break it down, you're like, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. I saw that. I saw an expert online doing it that way. Now, I'm not saying to criticize contractors and say, "Oh, I saw this on YouTube, do it that way." But just having in mind, like, "Oh, the proper way to do it is like this," and then you see them explaining their estimate or doing it in person. That's something you can always do as well. Um, you can catch a lot of contractors off guard with that, but yeah, that's something you can do. Um, what's another example? There's people that will install like framing or trim and not use a level. And I
Hmm.
get it. Sometimes you cannot put something in somewhere level. You just have to get as close as possible. It's a tight area or it's just almost impossible. But there's a lot of people where you have plenty of space to make something level and they don't. And it looks awful. Now it does take a trained eye to see if something's slightly off level. And most people wouldn't catch it, but you know, when you start building like framing and one thing is slightly off level and you scale that across a whole house, the whole house is gonna be shifted.
Hmm.
It's the little things.
You know, at this moment, we can even talk about material.
Mhm.
Because I'm pretty sure you've seen, good material, warped material, and that goes into the effect too of what you want to use. And I know just a regular homeowner is just going to be like, I go to Home Depot, I go to Lowe's. I see these contractors go to Home Depot and Lowe's, but like you were saying, it takes an eye. Um, give us one thing that you do specifically that might show that you have a little bit more care for your customer.
Um, I do. I like to explain it. I like to walk them through it. Like I
Okay.
just got a text yesterday from a homeowner I just sent an estimate to, and she was telling me I love how you broke it down and explained it. There's a few more items that I want to discuss with you about replacing. It's just things like just explaining and being upfront and showing that you actually care about what you're doing. You're not just trying to make some money.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, if a homeowner or a customer, whoever, feels like you don't care about them, why would they hire you? That's a pretty key aspect to the business right there. Um, Other things I would do, I try to be, I try to perform myself around the customer. So like the siding project I did, I showed her all the options of different materials, as far as hardy, uh, smart side, all these different. I laid them out basically. I said, here's the materials, here's the manufacturer's warranty. I have a 1 year warranty on my labor. So if anything that messes up, breaks, shifts, as long as it's not a house movement like foundation, because Texas has a lot of issues with that. But anything that has to do with my labor, you get a 1 year warranty through me, and then of course you get the manufacturer warranty for like Smart Side has 30 years and Hardy has like lifetime or 60 years or something. I don't remember.
Hmm.
Um, I try to I try to make sure they know their warranties. They have their options, the paint colors. I go as far as to get samples, and there was one area on the panel, on the Hardy panel. I did like probably 20 samples. Just they're having a hard time picking the paint. I understand. So I was going and getting all these samples and showing them. Like, hey, look, here's this, here's that, and I just keep my patience and make sure that they whatever they get, they're happy with. Because at the end of the day, if they're not happy with it, they're just gonna hate it. They're not gonna like what
Hmm.
you did. And if they're not happy with the work you did, you're never gonna get any more work from them. So as simple as something as simple as a paint color being wrong, they don't like it or they're just okay with it. It's kind of they're content. They might not pick you ever again to do something, even though it's just because they chose the wrong paint or you just jumped the gun and chose a paint from one of the things and do whatever. Every little thing matters. Goes a long ways.
Okay. We just kind of went in depth about different material and then also even craftsmanship.
Hmm.
But I'd like just to take a second to talk about, you personally, as you're a businessman, as you're, someone else that's just operating, with the day-to-days of life, everything's going on. What are you doing to actually continue your success? What are you either focusing on in your free time or even giving yourself that quality reassurance rather than just having burnout?
Um, I totally understand the burnout because I got burned out as a project manager. I make sure I give myself enough time to learn. I'm always trying to learn, whether it's watching somebody else do something or watching a YouTube video or I'm learning a new trade, learning how to do something differently. I make sure I always allocate enough time to learn because you're always learning. And whether that's an hour a day or one day I spend 5 hours doing it or whatever, I make sure I get some time in. But I also need to make sure I have time to relax, enjoy family, and like you said, you take Sundays off to spend with your wife.
Hmm.
I take Sundays off too because my girlfriend, she's if I'm working on Sunday, she's gonna be mad at me basically. So
I
you
know
get
what
you
that
get
means.
Monday to Saturday, and it's Sunday the whole day is for us. That's it. But
Hmm.
yeah, but I need to make sure daily that you have some time to relax and just get your mind at ease because some jobs can be stressful, some customers can be stressful. You need to be able to relax because if you're not relaxed, you're stressing, you're tired, you're overworked, you're gonna start making mistakes, and everything will just start coming down on you.
Hmm.
But that's a big thing for me.
As we gear it towards talking about the future, I just had this idea, that same pressure that you felt um, in starting the inception of the business. Back when your lady at the time, got pregnant, and congratulations,
Thank you.
congratulations on the healthy baby. Um, do you still feel that same intense of pressure, or do you feel like it's on a different level now?
I definitely still feel the pressure. Back then it was more scary. Now it's more like, okay, I need to keep moving. I need to figure out my next step. I'm trying to think. I got a week booked out, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. I'm trying to think about what about 5 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, and so on and so forth. That's the kind of pressure I'm feeling now. It's like, how do I got something going here? How do I keep it going for the long term? That's kind of
Mm,
where I'm at right now. Yeah, I know for working in construction, I know that the holiday seasons is very, very slow, and that can make or break a business. So that's why I'm trying to get in with property managers, and because I'm all insured, everything. I have all my papers work and everything correct. I know I can qualify to work for property managers, so I just got to get my foot in the door because I know how to do. They're basically what I do on a day to day, just for like HOAs or apartments or townhomes or whatever it may be. That's something I definitely want to get into. And I know that's more in the slow season. That's definitely, they're still going to need work done. It's not like homeowners saving up money for Christmas gifts and not wanting to get their house worked on or whatever.
hmm.
That's the scary season. It's around Christmas from just before December, honestly, till probably February. I think it's the scary season for anybody that's working in the construction industry that doesn't have a whole bunch of jobs lined out during that time. It can get scary.
Just talking right now, I would I would imagine to be proactive. That'd be probably a good time. So if we're saying right before December. So let's just be cautious and say Halloween. All right.
Hmm.
Halloween because Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
November's all Thanksgiving. People flying in. Parties are happening. Christmas rolls around, and you got pressure to perform right there. But before that slow season even starts, it'd be a good idea to focus on the marketing and networking side
Hmm.
of things. Because in those same holiday seasons, that's when businesses are doing networking and different events are actually either starting to redo their budget because December for their physical year of their budget is going to be done, around tax season in February.
Yep.
And
That's usually about when it picks up to around tax season.
yeah, because now money gets allocated during March. And
Hmm.
in March, that's when it can start running. And then you got to think like, okay, March is fairly close to June. Kids get out at June. And then, people are ready to spend for the summer,
Hmm.
because it is hot.
Yeah.
And especially in a location where we are, if you're trying to be outside, you got to have the right equipment. You can't just be outside, no fan, no AC. You
It's
know,
tough.
it's
It's
tough,
tough.
man.
Yeah, I got these shirts, man. They're like dry fit basically. Just evaporate the water off you. 'Cause I sweat a lot. I just do. And that stuff evaporates, cools me down. I got my hat on with the cover my neck.
Mhm.
I ask the homeowners like, hey, can I use your hose to spray me down? Sure, that's not a problem at all. I make sure my shirt's drenched for the most part, so that way it's constantly evaporating. It'll make
Mhm.
a 105-degree day feel like it's 90. It's not
Mhm.
it's not cool, but it feels a lot better than what it was. So
No, exactly. Yeah, you got to use these. You got to use these nature tricks. I want to give
mhm,
you props too for really going with the design of the polo
I
because
appreciate
it
that.
definitely holds out the professionalism, but it's also still workmanship.
Mhm, absolutely.
Um, let's talk about the future. What does your 5 to 10 year plan look for Echo's Handyman? You know, I'll
Yeah.
even set you. I'll even prop the question up more because earlier in the conversation you talked about, yeah, I'd like to expand, hire, and then manage with possible vehicles. Do
Mhm.
you ever see of a merger of a partnership? Let's just say, for one, let's talk about: are you only wanting to be the head honcho here? Are you looking to expand and maybe find someone that could offer a different niche? Maybe specifically
That's
handyman and
that's kind
one
of
more
where.
niche free.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. That's kind of
No,
where
you're good.
I'm kind of open ended there. Like I do want to have my own trucks running, but I also in the background of me doing all this, I have a couple other buddies we have a construction company that's kind of it's already started. It's done maybe 4 or 5 different projects. Like right now there's a window project going on with that company. We're doing this guy had these big curved windows and he's wants those basically brought flush to the house, which requires redoing framing, redoing drywall, of course, and redoing the brick and a whole bunch of other things. There's stuff like that going on. So I don't know if some point in the future, if I want to merge those somehow, because of Echoes Handyman, I'm 100% owner of that one. I'm part owner. I don't know if I want to somehow figure out a way to merge them or just keep them separate. Or maybe if maybe that company takes off, this company, I sell it, or I don't know. It's too early in anything to have a full decision on, but it's definitely an open-ended area for me, so I'm not
But
too sure
what
yet.
but what I do here is, you at least would like to scale. It's like, okay,
Definitely, yeah.
I'm getting comfortable. I'd like to eventually grow. And does that also mean, expand your area? Because at this time, you said
Good
you
question.
worry about trip charge, but is there like an extent? We're stationed in North Texas. Would you go all the way to Houston, to
That's a
do a
good
job?
question. Um, I think that right now I wouldn't go to Houston unless it was. I don't know. I don't think I would go to Houston at all. Um, right now I work through all the DFW, so that's kind of a hour and a half to 2 hour range of all of North Texas. That's usually my extent. I've had people call me, like third party contracting companies, like, "Hey, will you go work?" I don't remember. There's like cities like 3 4 hours away. I'm like, man, they want me to go do a plumbing job out there. I was like, you realize if I'm driving that far, I'm charging like double, triple my trip fee, and then you know. That's a long drive just to go do a small plumbing job or whatever. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend, 6 hours driving a day for a simple job. I
Hmm.
mean, I probably could. Some of them probably would accept it because they need somebody. But for the most part, I don't want to drive too far. Houston, I might do something in Houston if I had enough money in the project to have a hotel or Airbnb or something to stay for a week. It just depends, but I don't really get anything from Houston.
Hmm. That was just that's good to know. That's good to know about comfortability and what you're willing to work with and talk about in all in respect of the business.
Hmm.
Now, with with the growing experience that you have with Echo's handyman service, and still just being in young infant stage of, hey, I'm getting out there, I'm putting in all this work for myself. Are you surprised by your growth? And in a part two question, what would be something that you would tell yourself